Welcome to our podcast, Mani Ki Baat Suneet ke Saath. I am Mani and she is my life companion, Suneet. And our guest today is somebody you've met before on this program, the editor of Force magazine, Shri Pravin Sawhney, who is sitting on my right. Pravin Sahab, what we are going to discuss today is the military aspects of the conflict that Mr. Trump and Mr. Netanyahu have jointly started in Greater West Asia, as we call it. At the moment, what preoccupies us is the military aspect.
You know, it's very curious and fascinating to me, and I'm sure to many others, how Iran is not crumbling emotionally, politically, but militarily. How long can it hold out against the might of the US and Israel? Well, they are one and the same when it comes to the war. How long will it last, its ammunition, its planning? Where does it go?
Right. Thank you very much for inviting me. And I can say with certainty that Iran will not lose this war.
Which means Trump and Netanyahu will.
Again, you know, this needs to be understood what it means. This means that for Iran, it's a war of survival.
Yes.
If Iran can keep its territorial integrity, sovereignty intact, it has not lost.
That's right.
But for the Trump administration and alongside Netanyahu, this is a war of choice.
That's right.
And then they are the big party, the more powerful militarily, supposedly.
Yes.
Which I don't think, of course, they are in this game.
Supposedly is the key word.
Absolutely. So they are the bigger might, supposedly. And for them, because it is a war of choice, they are expected to have planned the war well, thought through what are the objectives, what is the capability of the enemy, what is their plan. What appears is that nothing is thought through. They are totally out of control.
So it's not only politically and diplomatically that they don't know what they're doing, even militarily you're saying they don't know what they're doing. They have allowed themselves to be dragged into this war instead of planning it meticulously in advance.
Absolutely. You see, the thing is that all started with Mr. Trump hoping that if I get a huge force against Iran, I'll be able to coerce them. And then he realized they're not getting coerced. After that, now Marco Rubio, who's the Secretary of State, he's actually spilled out the beans.
That's right.
He has gone and said that, look, it was like this, that we knew that the Israelis were preempting doing something on Iran. And because Iran had said, as part of its war strategy, that if America comes into it, then we will hit the bases. So we also thought we will preempt that. And no senator is buying this, especially the Democrats. The people are not buying it of America. If you see his ratings today, as far as the war is concerned, just about 21 or 22% of the Americans, they say that yes, this war is right because it is not America's war. It is a war for Israel, and Israel now has taken a back seat.
So it's the tail that's wagging the dog.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, please.
But is it true that Iran had been, you said that the US and Israel did not plan thoroughly, which they should have done because they were on the offensive. But Iran, from what I've heard, has been planning in detail at every level. If the general goes, what will the second in command do? If the supreme leader goes, what will the next one do? What will the third group do? All the tiers were in place. Also, has Iran really blinded Israel and American radar systems, which were spread over the Gulf countries? Has it really damaged all of them? That is what the pro-Iran media is saying.
Right. You see, let's start from here. That as far as Iran is concerned, Iran has been preparing for this war at least for the last 30 years. Because Iranians, see, they are a civilization, 5,000-year-old civilization. They're
actually longer than that, sir.
7,000
They are
actually.
about 4,000 years old.
Yeah.
Back at the time when Alexander defeated Darius, they were the United States of of the world before Jesus Christ.
Right.
And therefore, their civilization extends almost as far back as ours does.
Right. And then on top of that, not only were they preparing, they also were very clear of what are the lessons that need to be learned from the 12-day war that happened in June 2025. And one of the lessons, as you rightly mentioned just now, is what is called the decentralization of command. Because if the top person goes, or the second rank goes, or the third rank goes, there should be decentralization. So the important thing here is, because for each Iranian, this is a war of survival. So it doesn't matter whether you have unity of command, whether the top leader is not there, because everybody knows that they have to survive. They'll fight. And when you have 93 million people with this sort of a thinking or a mindset, they fight. But
May I just add here that 93 million Iranians is more than 93 million Arabs in that region. The number of Arabs in Greater West Asia is less than 93 million. So in fact, demographically, Iran is at an advantage compared to Israel plus all the West Asian states, including the Gulf states, that are currently allied with the United States in attacking Iran.
see, again, you're right here that let me go a little further, that all these Gulf Cooperation Council that we are talking about, they're all artificial constructs.
Yes.
They are the nations or the kingdoms and the sheikdoms which are the vassals of the American empire.
They began as vassals of the British.
Yes. So the thing here is very simple, that what used to be thought that the American bases in Middle East, they are the deterrence, they actually are the vulnerability today.
Yes.
Because, yeah, please.
So has Iran succeeded in damaging all the radar stations they set up, America has set up in the Gulf?
See, they have done so much of a damage that I'll just give an example of that. The Fifth Fleet, you know, they have this central command headquarters there in, forward headquarters in Qatar, and under that comes the Fifth Fleet, which is a huge armada that they have. Now,
That's based in Bahrain,
That's
which
in
we
Bahrain.
visited recently.
That's in Bahrain. So what the Americans had done was in a preemptive mode, because the Iranians had already said that, look, if you hit us, we will hit your bases. So this majority of the ships of Fifth Fleet, before the war started, they were taken out and they were brought to the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean region. So they were not there. So the point is that they understand that this is not, you know, a Libya or a Somalia. It is not. But as everybody now, Americans are openly talking about that it is Netanyahu who dragged Trump into this war. But the point here is very simple. What troubles me is that Trump is not a baby. I mean, he's the commander in chief, he is the president. So there must be some sort of a pressure. Now they talk of the Israel lobby in America.
Yes.
And that is what pushed Trump. Well, whatever it is unfortunate because they don't have a plan. And why I say they don't have a plan is, it all starts with trying to coerce them. After that, then the thing is that we'll do a regime change, trying to do what they did in Venezuela. You take out Maduro or you kill Ali Khamenei, and they created more problems. Because Ali Khamenei is a very important, he's like a pope to the Shias. Now forget about the Middle East, there are so many countries, and in fact India also. In Ladakh, in Srinagar, in Lucknow, in Hyderabad, everywhere there have been demonstrations. So many people have got killed in Pakistan. So the point I'm making is that all this, what they have done, has worked to Iran's advantage. On top of that, Iran, just see what sort of the fear it has put into these people. Iran has not closed the Strait of Hormuz. It has said that it is closed and nobody is going there.
Can we just get back to the main theme, which is militarily, where do we stand today? Is America and Israel, of course, on the losing side? And do we include India on the losing side? Or is Iran going to prevail, as you indicated at the beginning?
See, when this war will be done with, nobody knows. It is still early days. But what can be, as I said, is because it is a war of survival for the Iranians, they will not lose. Now, as far as Americans are concerned, they have no plan and they are in big trouble. And here is the big thing. Now they are talking of boots on the ground. Boots on the ground will be a complete disaster. But now coming to the India part, what you said, you see, it can be said with certainty now that India geopolitically is irrelevant in West Asia. And what I mean by geopolitically irrelevant is it has lost all influence.
Yes, completely.
So that is being completely irrelevant. And
So all the hugs that Mr. Modi has distributed among the sheikhs is of no use to us at the present moment.
no, not at all. I mean, what they are to America is precisely what it looks like a country of 145 billion is to America.
That's right.
We are doing precisely what they are doing. I mean, why should we be doing that? We don't have any military bases here. We are a country which can live in a very respectful way. We have lived it this way, and we have a very important role in BRICS. But why are we running there?
But in BRICS, we are a total outlier. Every single BRCS is on the other side. India alone among BRICS is on the American and Jewish side.
Which is unfortunate.
Tragic.
And I'll tell you the sad part. The sad part is that now India has suddenly realized that Strait of Hormuz is closing. There is a report which says that only 25 days of oil is left. We have approached the Russians. Russians have said we'll give you. Russians have also promised to give us additional S-400. I mean, you have to understand that we have relations going back to the Soviet time with the Russians.
That's right.
And you have to understand, as far as China is concerned, China today is a great power. So you talking about we being in competition with China, you aren't. I mean, now we know that the dates have come. On 31st of March for 3 days, Mr. Trump is visiting China.
But to come back,
Yeah.
because that's the focus, or that ought to be the focus, militarily, the ballistic missiles which Iran has are limited. Iran, to the best of our knowledge and apparently their assertions, does not have a nuclear weapon. The Americans, on the other hand, have endless supplies of armaments of every kind. Their armada is in the Indian Ocean. They have bases all around Iran. They are now trying to stir up the Kurds as well as the Baloch to attack, a kind of pincer attack on Iran. Iran has just experienced a very strong wave of protests that has led to thousands of Iranians being killed by the Iranian forces. How is it that they will survive this war of survival?
Right.
Militarily.
Absolutely. I'll talk the military aspects only now, and with due apologies, I'll give you the position, what it is. The position is that in terms of the missiles that we are talking about, the ballistic missiles, the cruise missiles, they have a production capability today. And this has been admitted by Marco Rubio. I'm not saying it. He has said that Russia today can produce 100 missiles every month, whereas the Americans can only produce 7 to 8 interceptors, which is the defensive missiles to hold them. And each missile needs something like 4 to 5 interceptors. Not only that, there are reports, and they are cogent reports, that the Chinese also have sent them. They have those strategic big aircraft which are called Y-20s. Something like 19 aircraft loads have gone there. So a lot of missiles have gone there. And now coming to the other point about drones, there is no way that the Americans can match the drone making capability at scale of the Iranians. And what matters is at scale. And these drones, which are a category which is called Shahid, but it actually means Shaheed. So Shaheed drones, they are various types. There are small drones, there are jet powered drones which go at high altitude area. That is the other part. The Americans can't match that. Next part, what in 2026 beginning, what they did was the Iranians, they left the GPS and they became part of the Chinese Beidou 3 satellite constellation.
What is GBS?
That is
The
ground
satellite
positioning system.
mapping.
You know, so it's very old.
Okay.
It's very old. And Beidou is again a satellite constellation, Beidou 3, which is a very new one, and it is at least in my estimation, 8 to 10 years, maybe 8 years advanced. It is more advanced than GPS. Wow. So they've got on the GPS, which is why, if we see in the 12-day war, their missiles were not very accurate. Now today, Iranian missiles. When Iranians were shooting the Israelis, that time their missiles were not very accurate in the 12-day war. But today, what's happening is that they are hitting in a hotel, and they are getting it right. It is all because of Beidou 3.
But does the Iron Dome that the Israelis have put up, and to get which Modi went to Israel the other day, is that effective, or has it proved effective so far against Iranian missiles?
See, I'm happy to discuss with anybody that in our country, the Israeli capabilities are overblown, military capabilities. Having said that, yes, Iron Dome is a good system, but the problem here is that when you have a swarm of missiles, a wave of missiles coming, you need so many interceptors.
Yeah.
Where are those interceptors? They are short of interceptors, and they are admitting that, which is why I said that they are not ready for the war. Now coming to the nuclear thing that you said, that they have nuclear weapons. Well, the leader of North Korea has publicly said that I will give the ballistic missiles to Iran if they ask for it. Well, he can give that. He can also give the nuclear weapons. So I think this nuclear weapon has to go out of the equation completely, which is why, you see, I can tell you something with certainty that today they have missiles which can last a couple of months. Iranians, the Americans do not have the interceptors, because whatever little they had, they sold it off to Taiwan, they sold it off to this Ukraine war. And here is the kicker, that now they are getting the interceptors THAAD from South Koreans. Now the South Koreans would be wondering, if somebody has a thing that was meant for our security against the Chinese, that for these guys, the Americans, the security of Israel is more, and they are taking out from here. So what will they be thinking? That they would be rethinking their whole alliance system that they have with America. So the point I'm making is that this war, the more it goes, I'm only talking of the military aspect here, it will have a big impact on global geopolitics. We know that today the world is multipolar, and it is hastening. What Trump has done is, by getting into this war for which he was not prepared at all, he is basically hastening the creation of the new world order, and that is my point.
You have said in one of your podcasts that the Americans, whatever supplies they have, they are incapable of really landing them in the theater of war, because the Iranians have either blocked or deeply damaged all the ports of that region. Can you expand on that?
Yes. See, so what they did was, in the first wave of missiles and the drones, their drones are very effective, as I said, because they are helped with the entire precision, where it will go, where it will hit, is being held by the Chinese satellite system. So what they did was that all the ports today, where they can do the reloading of the missiles, the Americans, and I'm talking of Tomahawk missiles. Tomahawk are their deadly missiles, and Tomahawk, you have to do, when you reload them, it is what is called a vertical reloading. It has to come like this. So it cannot be done in transit, it needs a port. Now the ports are not there. So the closest port that they have is Diego Garcia.
Garcia?
Yes.
That's in the middle of the Indian Ocean?
Yes. And
about 1,000 miles away?
Yeah.
Or
so
more?
A turnaround and reload will cost them something like 18 days, 14 to 18 days. This is so much for the preparation of war. You see, the problem here is that Americans, as I have said repeatedly, they have the mightiest military in the world, but to fight the 20th century war. The 21st century war is about drones at scale. It is about everything small at scale. It is about space capabilities. It is about electronic warfare. And this is where
the use the term virtual domination.
These are virtual domains of war, which is what we call control of the electromagnetic spectrum. You see, you and I, we can see each other because of light. So light is part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So you control the electromagnetic spectrum, you jam the communication of the enemy. So you can do so much, and the Chinese are very good at that, and therefore the problem is, and the world is realizing that the PLA capabilities are for the 21st century war. Platforms, those days are gone. Tanks, huge tanks and huge guns, those days are over.
Like in the First World War, they relied on cavalry, on horses.
Yes.
And that is why they lost against tanks.
Exactly, because you see the panzers, they could do the maneuver. Now the age of maneuver is over.
Yeah.
The problem is that because of space, the whole battlefield can be seen. So where do you maneuver? The tanks are seen, the commanders are seen, everybody is seen.
Now, these drones, are they capable of confusing the radar and other detection systems?
Destroying them.
And are they more effective in penetrating the so-called Iron Dome?
Yeah, so you see, they basically what they do is that these drones are of various types. There are some what is called the suicidal drones. Kamikaze, they go and hit some place. They will hit, let's say, a radar, destroy the radar. They can do that. Then there are some which can jam the things, that they can't work. Then there are some which can mislead. For example, there's a report, very interesting report, that 3 F-15, which are fighters of the US Air Force, the report comes from the Central Command that they have been hit by mistake by the Kuwaiti Air Defense.
Friendly fire, this
They can't be fools.
Yeah.
So something else has happened. So what has happened in my assessment is that the Beidou 3 system, it mimicked a signal that it appeared to the ground's radar that look, this is a hostile aircraft. And they hit the F-15 and the F-15 came down. So they will also be worrying. Now the only thing perhaps they will bring in the theater are their bombers. So my point is that this is a different war. Iranians are prepared for it. And here is the best thing. Now, even 2 days back, a report comes that the Iranians are asking through channels, the Americans, that we want to negotiate. And the deputy foreign minister of Iran has come on a television saying that we have not said that. And he says that we will defend. In other words, what he's saying is we'll fight.
That's right. In fact, there is nothing to negotiate.
Yes.
On the 26th of February, the negotiation in Geneva had ended. The Iranians had said they will never ever become a nuclear weapon power. The Iranians said we will not accumulate any fissile material. The Iranians said we will not have any stockpiles of fissile materials. The Iranians said the IAEA will have full access to undertake inspections. In fact, they went further and said we are willing to even accept US inspectors to come and check our resources. So Mr. Al-Busani, the Oman foreign minister who was mediating the talks in Geneva, said to an American commentator on the 27th of February, that he was certain that the agreement would be signed. So the talks have taken place. They've almost succeeded. And it's precisely because they were going to succeed that the Israelis next morning attacked and killed not only Ali Khamenei, but also about 40 of his senior advisors. So when Mr. Trump says, we'll remove the Ayatollah and then get one of their people to come in, there were 40 people not available. And then he is now talking about bringing in the Kurds, bringing in the Baloch, having them be the boots on the ground, because he doesn't dare put Americans on the ground. So they've effectively lost the war.
No, see, so they are heading towards a situation that they don't know how to salvage. Because right from the word go, this war, what will be the war objectives? They were never planned. Because he just thought that we are so big. Again, it's American arrogance of power, that our military power. I mean, these are the guys who spent $1 trillion defense budget. But the problem is that they have 800 bases across the world. Yes. And now we see in the Middle East, all their bases are actually their vulnerability. Because if you can't defend your bases, you do not have adequate interceptors, which is what the Saudis are now openly saying. The Saudi minister had come and said that look, the interceptors, the Americans, they are not giving us, they are giving Israel. So the point here is that there is total chaos militarily, geopolitically, for the Americans, and honestly, I don't understand that why my country's government can't understand this.
But can I, since you brought up my country,
Yes.
which is also my country,
Yes.
and
Our
unfortunately
country.
it's Modi's country as well, we've just had a shocking incident. There was an Iranian warship that we invited to be our guest at the naval exercises of Vishakhapatnam, which was called Milan, meeting. And after the exercises were over, the Iranian warship was returning to Iran when it went down the Bay of Bengal, rounded Sri Lanka, and was entering the Arabian Sea when it was torpedoed. Now, is that how you treat a friend? Why is Mr. Modi chasing a completely unreliable United States of America instead of befriending the Iranians?
Can I please give a perspective to this
Yes, of
instance
course.
that you have
Of
mentioned?
course.
See, as I was saying earlier, what the Americans had done was that Fifth Fleet, most of their warships, they had brought before the war started in the Middle East to Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean regions, and the Indians knew about it. I mean, it can't happen that India, which is sitting right here, doesn't know that all this is going on. So Indians knew about it, and these ships came for Milan exercise, of course, but for the International Fleet Review also. Now, International Fleet Review is a ceremonial thing. 18 countries' warship came here.
18 countries.
And it was reviewed by our Commander-in-Chief, the President of India.
Draupadi Murmu.
Yeah, what this means is that not only 18 countries' ships have come to build mutual trust, that there is already trust between the countries which have sent their warships for the International Fleet Review. So the least that the government of India could have done is, because these people came before the fleet review happened. They came on the 15th, before the 15th, and the war started on the 28th. So the least the government could have done is just rung up the Iranian minister and told him that look, your ship is here and you want it to be here, and sought his advice, what he wants to do. We just kept quiet.
No, not only that, once the American submarine torpedoed the Iranian warship, all the rescue efforts were made
By the Sri Lankans.
The Sri Lankan. Our navy is silent, and not even condolence for the 80 plus lives lost. Those were innocent sailors. They were not shooting. They were not. But now today's news. Today, this is Wednesday, right? Today's news is that more than 18 naval ships of Iran have been sunk by the American Navy. Is that right?
See, in war, there is a lot of disinformation going on, a lot of fog of war. So, whatever is coming from the Western media, I think it has to be taken with loads of salt. That is one, because then you have to you have to see what can be right, what they are telling a lie. So the long and short is very simple that, and this is what has been said by Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth is the Secretary of War. And when he was asked the question by the reporter, he says that there are no rules of engagement in this war. So basically what they have done, these innocent people who are unarmed, they did not have any arms. They were just coming back from a ceremonial thing, and they sunk the ship. And this is a shameful act for a country which is the number one country in the world. And I can't understand why my government, why India. I mean, we have such long relations with Iran. The least, even if geopolitically now we are with the other side, it was our duty to at least tell them. They came as our guests here, that what do you want us to do? Should we keep the ship here? But we just kept quiet. I mean, it's shocking me.
It shocked Admiral Arun Prakash as well.
Right.
He has written, he's spoken, saying that as a former Chief of Naval Staff, he just cannot understand the extension of this war almost to India. It certainly has got extended to the exclusive economic zone of Sri Lanka. And yesterday we heard on television the leader of the opposition, blaming his own government for not having taken up this matter strongly with the United States of America. So it does seem as if the answer to my first question is that the Americans are losing the war.
Well, they are in trouble.
At any rate, they are in trouble. I go one step further, stick my neck out as I usually do, and say they're losing the war. And why do I say that? They've lost every war. Did they win in Cuba in 1961? Did they win in Vietnam in the 1970s? Did they win in Afghanistan? No. Did they win in Iraq? No. Did they win in Somalia? No. Did they win in Libya? No. Did they win in Tunisia? No. They haven't won anywhere. The only time they won is in their own backyard when they picked up Maduro, and that was after making the vice president clear that she would succeed. So what they were hoping for was that somebody in the Ayatollah circle would prove to be a traitor, instead of which they have elected Ayatollah Khamenei's son, Mujtaba, as the supreme leader. And the supreme leader, who's only about 40 years old, he knows that he's been set up to be a martyr. And the striking thing about Iranian Islam is that it is Shia. And it's based on what happened in Karbala in the 7th century AD, when Ali and Hussein were both martyred. And therefore, I suspect that when Ayatollah Khomeini called all his 40 chief advisors, military, political, diplomatic, into a single meeting, he knew that he would be martyred. But given the tradition of martyrdom, which you have just explained by saying that their missiles are called Shahid, but it means Shaheed, therefore, he knew that martyrdom was coming and he welcomed it, because there is no surer way in Shia Islam to go to Jannat than to get martyred. And in these circumstances, I think it's absurd for them, for the Americans, to rely on the Kurds. The largest contingent of Kurds in that area is in Turkey. It's not in Iran. The largest is Turkey, the second largest is Iraq, and the smallest is Iran. And as far as the Baloch are concerned, they are there in Iran and they're also in Pakistan. And if they're going to make friends with Pakistan, they're really destabilizing their own ally by backing the Baloch. So it does seem to me to be a situation of total military confusion, political confusion, diplomatic confusion. It's just more, Mr. Trump must be the most stupid political leader in the world.
Can I just say a word on Kurds? See, these Kurds, as you know very well, they are in 4 countries. They are in Iraq, they are in Iran, Turkey and Syria.
Yes.
They are there. And they are not united. Everybody is asking for different things. Somebody wants autonomy. Now, specific to Iran, they are about 8 to 10%. That means out of 93 million, if we are talking about, let's say 8 to 10 million are the Kurds. Now, here is the key point, that yes, they have their issues, but this whole thinking that is going on, and he spoke, President Trump spoke also to their leaders, the Kurd leaders. This whole thing is driven by CIA. I have always believed that when you make a war plan, intelligence input should be part of the war plan. They should never be the war plan by itself.
Yes.
You see, it will be a disaster.
And that's because I don't understand why it's called intelligence, because that's the only quality they lack, whether in India, whether in America, around the world.
It's good to get the inputs from there, but you can't make a plan based on intelligence inputs. Right. That will be a disaster. So now what will happen is, if they actually go this way, and already there's some talk going on in the administration that look, we'll put some our boots also on the ground. If you do that, it's a disaster, because a few boots, you have a problem, few more boots.
In Somalia, if I might remind the audience, in Somalia, there were the Black Hawks were brought down.
Yeah.
There were 8 body bags, just 8. And it resulted in Bill Clinton calling off that war.
Right.
So if you have 800 body bags reaching the United States of America, a country where, as you said, only about 20% of the population support the war, there'll be so much trouble politically for Mr. Trump that I fully expect him to fall in the sense of losing the coming November elections to Congress. Moreover, if I may again put my neck very, very far out, the most important consequence of the First World War, which I've studied with the same interest that you study contemporary wars, the most important consequence was that 5 empires collapsed at the end. One was the Kaiser in Germany, the other was Austro-Hungary, the third was the Turkish Empire, the fourth was Russia, the Tsar, and generally speaking, there was a collapse of the empires. The only one that survived was Britain. I predict that at the end of this farce, all the sheikdoms are going to fall. And we're going to see a Republican Arabia arising from this. And the net result of that will be that America will lose the monarchical puppets that it currently has in West Asia, and Israel will be so isolated that unless they go down on their knees and beg for remorse, I think Israel will also be ended. So on that note, which is my note, not Pravin Saab's, you got a really clear idea of what the military situation is in Greater West Asia. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, what about China and Russia? Is China in a position to keep supplying physically, reaching those missiles and drones, whatever, to Iran quickly in order to influence the outcome of the war?
See, they don't need drones. As I said, they have this series of drones. As far as missiles are concerned, they have the production. What they needed was what has already been given to them, which is the space capabilities and so many other things. And along with that, as I said, that there are reports something like 19 aircraft have come and nobody dare shoot down a Chinese aircraft. So they will come, and the Chinese foreign minister Wang He has publicly said, now this is a very interesting thing, he has publicly said that we support territorial integrity and sovereignty of Iran.
Yes.
Please recall the same thing they had said when Sindoor happened for Pakistan. So the point I am making is, this is very interesting, this is the way I thought it is, that as far as West Pacific is concerned, which is where their home base is, Chinese home base, they have enough deterrence there for Taiwan. The Americans can do nothing there. Now what they are doing is, in our region, because of Operation Sindoor, without fighting, they have created a military domination through Pakistan. The same thing, in my estimation, they will do at the global level, because Iran is fighting not a regional country, India, it is fighting a great power, America.
Yes.
So by supporting Iran through all this wherewithal of the 21st century war, they will create, without fighting, a military deterrence. And as far as the end of the war is concerned, I don't know when it ends, but certainly what will happen is that all these sheikdoms, especially the Gulf Cooperation Council, they are already thinking that this is the vulnerability, the American base is here, and perhaps they will start thinking in terms of collective defense for themselves. So this is the future that I see at the end of the war, whenever the war is over.
Okay, my last question. Does any of this concern India? Does the destruction of an Iranian warship 40 miles outside Sri Lanka, not India, show that the war is coming to India, or is India still safe from being made a belligerent?
See, India is not safe. Nobody in the world is safe, because the world is going through multipolarity, because the existing rule of order is over. So nobody is safe. Having said that, what can certainly be said is that India is at a very wrong place geopolitically and militarily. I completely disagree with Jai Shankar. In fact, we haven't heard Jai Shankar since the war started.
No, he hasn't said anything.
There's complete silence. What Jai Shankar repeatedly used to say at all the channels is that India will rise despite the instability in the region. Well, it will not happen. There is far too much of instability, and once the Chinese establish for the world their global deterrence in this war by supporting Iran, there is big trouble for India.
But India also has to make up its mind as to where it stands, if anywhere.
I think that Modi government has made up its mind. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you on this. They stand with Trump and they stand with Netanyahu. Sorry.
The question, this is from that professor at Columbia University, Jeffrey Sachs, his name is. He says that India must, inside BRICS, must uphold the UN Charter. Are we going to do that?
See, Jeffrey Sachs is
We are upholding the US Charter.
UN.
UN.
So there's no hope of our upholding the...
See, we need a government. The country has potential, a lot of potential. We need a government who can think beyond the nose, who's not reactive to every event, who actually has a plan. This Viksit Bharat, there is no plan. Nobody knows what is the plan to reach Viksit Bharat. We'll become a developed nation. It's all a fantasy. So unless there is a government, and for that what you need is a leader who is willing to get some experts together of various domains, make a plan. This is how things happen. This is what China has done. And there is so much we can learn from China because both the countries have more than 1 billion population.
Indeed, indeed. Well, thank you very much, Pravin Saab, and thank you, Suneet, for your active participation in this discussion. The future is very bleak. India's position is utterly uncertain. Our country is in the gravest danger of being caught up in this greater West Asian war. We are on the wrong side, morally, militarily, politically and geopolitically. We're also on the wrong side economically because already oil prices have crossed $90 a barrel and are likely to top 100. We acquire a large proportion of our oil requirements from the Gulf, where the Strait of Hormuz is now closed down. And we'll have great difficulty if we start substituting it with Russian oil, because then the Americans will come down harsh upon us. We have chosen our friends wrongly. And above all, the worst decision we have made is to back the Israeli Zionists instead of backing the patriotic and nationalist Palestinians, as we did all the way from 1938, when Mahatma Gandhi said that Palestine belongs to the Arabs, even as England belongs to the English and France to the French. From 1938 right through 1947 and up to 2014, we knew where we stood with regard to Palestine. Ever since 2014, the Middle East has been looked on through religious eyes. And we seem to think that Islam is the biggest danger that has ever overtaken India. We talk, at least the present government does, of 1,000 years of slavery. Now, if that is your attitude towards Iran and the Muslim people of West Asia, whether they be Sunnis or whether they be Shias or whether they be Alawites or whatever they are, it's going to be extremely disastrous for India if we treat Muslims outside India the way in which we are treating Muslims inside India. So therefore, we have to go back to Mahatma Gandhi. We have to abandon the current Modi doctrine, and we have to ensure that India remains secular so that its foreign policy also remains secular. Thank you very much for having shown the patience to be with us throughout this discussion. My deep gratitude to Mr. Pravin Sawhney, who has enlightened us on every aspect of the Greater Asian War. Namaskar, Jai Hind.